James Foley was an American photojournalist that went missing in Syria while covering the events of the civil war that's still going on there. Now, Foley was apparently captured and executed by the Islamic State in Iraq. In response to that horrific and brutal execution, he was, and by the way, he was beheaded, and the video was briefly put up on social media, on YouTube, and then it was pulled. In response to that, President Obama held a press conference from Martha's Vineyard. Let's take a look at that clip.
No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day. ISIL has no ideology of any value to human beings. Their ideology is bankrupt. And people like this ultimately fail. They fail because the future is won by those who build and not destroy. And the world is shaped by people like Jim Foley and the overwhelming majority of humanity who are appalled by those who killed him. The United States of America will continue to do what we must do to protect our people. We will be vigilant and we will be relentless. When people harm Americans anywhere, we do what's necessary to see that justice is done, and we act against ISIL, standing alongside others.
There's a few things in that speech that kind of got my attention, and once again, it's that speech that's saying that we're going to stand against ISIL. We call them ISIL at this point. I'm not even sure what to call them anymore. IS, ISIS, ISIL, whatever, a bunch of crazy fundamentalists, you know, murderers, whatever. Whatever you want to call them. You hear what the president was talking about, and it really kind of gets you wondering what other kind of action would happen in Iraq. Now, we're currently doing airstrikes in Iraq to help out, for example, the Kurdish Peshmerga, and to help out the Yazidis. And, you know, those are things that I'm generally in favor of. But I am wondering, guys, I'm just wondering if any of this rhetoric, any of the plans to possibly expand the role of U.S. military forces in Iraq, does this concern any of you guys that this could broaden out, that this could get bigger?
I think with the president's words there, he used some fairly strong language. Maybe some of us would have liked it a bit stronger, but then it wouldn't have been particularly presidential. With strong language, you tend to see the case with presidents that they will then follow up with stronger actions. I mean, my main 2 points here are that, first of all, kind of him calling the ISIL ideology bankrupt. I mean, it's completely true. This group of extremists, if kind of Islam didn't exist, they would find some other means to justify their actions to try and create a state of whatever they would call it. But in terms of James Foley's death and that now, in a way, energizing kind of the American populace thinking, oh, we need to do more to kind of stop these crazy radicals, is that if it were someone like Shep Smith or, I don't know, Brian Williams, some other prominent kind of US reporter who had some sort of celebrity-esque status, had they been captured in 2012 or had they been kind of executed by this group, America would have gone to war straight away. In the UK, if one of our prominent kind of more noticeable journalists had been captured and then executed, the UK would have done a hell of a lot more. The fact that James Foley isn't that well known by the American populace and is realistically only known by those in the, kind of the media circles is probably the reason why America hasn't acted as strongly straight away. So I imagine, I mean, ISIL's threat was, you know, if Obama doesn't stop the attacks, then they're going to execute another reporter that they captured back in 2012. I imagine that sadly, because now America is most likely going to step up its aggression against the Islamic State, that they probably will go ahead and, again, they'll no doubt put out kind of a video of them executing him as well, which is, of course, tragic, and no one should go and kind of share that video. If you want, I'm not too angry about people wanting to watch it just for their own curiosity, because then they'll get angry and want to do something about it, but sharing it and stuff. And I think it was a New York Post that had on their front page a massive screenshot of the moment just before James Foley was executed, which of course was absolutely abhorrent, and they can't be called journalists at all. They're an absolute disgrace to the entire profession. But yeah, I just think that America will step up. I still don't think they're going to put any ground troops in. at least they're not going to say they're going to put ground troops. They may put some special forces in and do kind of a little bit of stealth action here and there, but for the most part, I think it's just going to be increased air support in that area.
Right. All right. Jordan, then Nick. Go and weigh in.
I mean, I think it's certainly, it gives him justification to continue what we were already doing. It's not enough to, to ramp up for boots on the ground. Like we've made it clear that's not something the American people are going to get behind. And if there's one thing Obama won't do, it's anything that isn't wildly, completely, and overwhelmingly popular, because that would require leadership to stand up and do something else. I mean, these ISIL this is not the right play here. The whole if you keep doing these airstrikes, then we're gonna keep coming after your prisoners. Because if there's anything that current events should have taught them, it's that no one is allowed to kill American citizens unless you're Israel. Then it's perfectly okay. So as soon as they did this, they just opened the door for us to not serve as the Iraqi Air Force. We made it clear we won't do that. But we're more than okay with serving as the Peshmerga Air Force. And to truth be told, the U.S. has a lot to gain here, because we have always kind of always here in recent history we've stood with the Kurds, or they've at least stood with us, and we've got this rare situation where the state military of Iraq is now allied with the Kurds. So like ISIS has given us the common enemy that we want. Like ISIL is being the event that we need right now to promote a unity government, to give the Kurds a fair shake, and to get them working hand in hand with the state of Iraq. And that is something that 15 years ago, nobody, or 10 years ago even, no one could have guessed, that the Kurds and Iraq would be allies in a war. Like, that's crazy. But hey, if ISIL wants to go ahead and do that, then that shows how well thought out their actions are.
That's an interesting perspective. I never considered that before. Nick?
As I said last show, I'm a bit more of the warhawk on the panel than probably most of you. If this had been if it had been me in charge, and keep in mind I'm talking from the hypothetical where if I didn't have America's previous track record and which has thus made it very unpopular to go in, hands down this would be my go. I would be deploying something on the ground. Again, though, that's only within the context of if they hadn't already screwed everything up in the first place by doing just that for the wrong reasons. So obviously, I think a lot more people would be in favor of that if that were the case, if that hadn't happened. But I think these people have demonstrated, well before this, back even when they were doing the Yazidi thing and even before that, that they have no interest in being diplomatic with anybody. And we should not be diplomatic with them. We should not be barbaric either, but we should meet their force, not with disproportionate force, with sufficient force to make sure they're not a threat to the broader community and to innocent people. And we should do that in a way that's careful to avoid endangering those people we're trying to protect, which is, of course, the challenge. But yeah, I'm with Jordan. This is a very bad move for them. Not just in the sense that when you kill Americans and then show the world, it usually doesn't end well for you. But the fact that they're not making any friends. You're trying to become a new state. You're trying to become big. You can't do that and be the pariah of the world. That doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I think both Nick and Jordan raised some really good points. With Nick saying that if you took this entirely out of context, without any of America's previous history, without any Americans dying in that region over the last, kind of 10, 15 years, I think Americans probably would want to say, okay, let's put some troops on the ground, let's wipe these out. We haven't had a good war in 20 years, let's go in. But the fact that Americans cocked up so much in that region, that's why all presidents now, for at least the next 50, 60, 100 years, are going to be really tentative getting into any kind of other quagmires in that area. And I think there's Jordan's point as well in terms of kind of galvanizing kind of the region there. Certainly the Kurdish are now going to be more favourable towards America. And let's not forget as well, Syria has been fighting ISIL, and Iran's also been helping out as well. If it's an opportunity, kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know, if you say to Bashar al-Assad, look, you're helping us out a bit, you know, maybe you can get some talks going there. Similarly with Iran, they're all fighting this extremist group. It's an opportunity to at least get some more dialogue going in that region. So kind of the silver lining of all this kind of utter insanity from this group is that it may start getting previous enemies around a diplomatic table again.
You know, but and the thing is too, is that even with all of this, the right, like our conservative party here in America and our defense contractors, they're on track to win again. This is going to be another victory for the military-industrial complex. Like if we, you know, expand strikes to more airstrikes, more air support, if we start helping out the Iraqi army more, especially since Maliki has stepped down and they're trying to form a new government, that might get us into helping the Iraqi army more and being their air force and being the Peshmerga's air force and doing all that stuff and expanding to what we had before, which was, if you can remember, back when Saddam was in charge, we had those large no-fly zones that we continued to enforce. And we're going to go back to that. And once again, it's a win for the defense contractors, a win for the right wing here in America. And especially, if you can remember the segment we did on that one Fox reporter that said, bomb them now, bomb them again, and keep bombing them. Well, congratulations. You just got your wish. We're bombing them. And we're going to keep bombing them.